Hello and welcome to episode 42 of Soccercraft. In the last episode, we got a ton of work done on the detailing of the mountains, and we got the build for the map room of the Sun Warrior Temple area village complete. And I have to say, I am very happy with how this room turned out. It's really setting the tone for how I want the rest of the builds in this area to look. So the overgrown look is really coming through well in this build, and the map is looking awesome as well. And now, as far as this episode goes, there's a few things that I want to get done. First and foremost, I want to have a look at the paths of this area and figure out what design we're going to use and see if we can get it laid down. And I want to build up a moss farm. As you can tell, we're using up a lot of moss, like just behind me. And using this stuff in this build, it's easy to collect a lot of it because all you have to do is take bone meal to it. But I want to create an automatic farm in one of these orange spaces in order to collect up a lot of moss and the moss carpets. So now, before we get started on this moss farm, let's talk about the mechanics of moss first. So here I have a piece of moss that is adjacent to dirt, grass, and actually let's mix some stone in here as well. So a piece of moss next to dirt, stone, and grass. And now if we bone meal this, it will spread to all of these options, as well as andesite, granite, and diorite as well. And so yeah, as you can see, everything got taken over by moss. Now, one of the features that we're going to use is this dispenser here with a bucket of water in it. And whenever we run water underneath this stuff, it pops off all the moss carpets, any of the azalea bushes that might have grown, and can push them to a collection chamber. And we also have this piston here, and whenever a piston pushes a moss block, it doesn't actually push it, it will break it. So we can use this to help us collect the moss blocks as well, and we'll just need to find a way to automate this. And now, to show you another feature that we're going to use in this farm, I've come over to my old broken stone farm. Right now it's not working, but this is the main idea. We want something that generates stone and pushes it towards the center, and that will allow the stone to turn into moss blocks, creating the blocks that we'll actually be collecting. So I've gone ahead and started clearing out this building to put the moss farm in, and I've cleared out a basement below to put the actual moss farm, and in the actual building is where we're going to have the storage. Now, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to build up Ethos Labs' moss farm. The one that he built on Hermitcraft Season 8 looks like an excellent farm, and I kind of just want to give it a try. So let's hop into a time lapse of me building up that farm. And the moss farm is complete. And let's see if I can explain it. Now, Etho did a really good job of explaining it in his video, so his video is obviously going to be linked in the description. But you take the good old-fashioned Etho hopper clock. It sends a really short pulse through this torch, which goes around like this, activating the pistons, which will push out the stone, which is what we are using to break the moss. And then from here, this sends another pulse up to the second layer of redstone, which activates the dispensers, which is washing away the carpets and the grass on top. And the last redstone line comes up to the dispenser, which is bone mealing the moss block floating above the stone platform. And actually, when you bone meal this, it does spread downwards, so that is the mechanic that we're using. But we can't have anything on top of it. So if anything goes on top of it, there's a piston there to break it off. So that's how this works. So for an example, this is what that looks like. And down below, we have the storage system, which is just the same thing that Etho did in his video. Minecart going over 4 hoppers, but it still drops off in the back 2 hoppers every once in a while. And all of those hoppers pointing towards these chests. Now, what I want to do next is build up a sorting system to put into this building that will sort the items and put them in individual chests. But first thing we got to do is build up the build that we're going to have in its place. And I have no idea what I want this building to look like yet, so I'm going to hop into a live stream and have chat help me design it, and I'll see you guys when we get back. And the build for the moss farm is complete, and it actually took up the rest of my copper. So from that whole 69 by 69 hole dig, I only got enough copper to do the basement of that place, and this place. So we're gonna have to do some copper hunting soon. But I am very happy with how this turned out, as I am with everything else in this area, and I've started to do some of the redstone sorting down from below as well. If you come in, we're starting to get a little bit of an interior going, and these 3 barrels are where everything is going to end up. And these levers kind of actually, here, I'll just kind of show you what I did. So down below here we have our mess of hoppers, and it is far from perfect, but I kind of have it set up so that not everything will end up in its chest, so that we do have a little bit of overflow, so I'm able to send this to another composter to help refuel the system at a later date. But as I was saying, we've got our 4 item filters here to take the items out, and they send them over to 4 separate item elevators. And yeah, we kind of just mixed them all in here. Did a little bit of a different one that's always running on the center one to help with space. And yeah, basically these send it up to the top of the item elevators here, and that sends them across to another item elevator, which I can, I guess, show you from above. So now if I come here, you can see that the piston is pushing the observer from looking into this observer's face. So when it pulls up, it creates a clock, and that will help pull up any moss blocks that we made from the item elevator below and into the barrel for us to be able to grab. And that's basically what we've done so far. We also actually do have this lever here, which activates the farm. So turning that on will push or pull this block out of the way, unlocking the hopper clock and activating it. So now all of the activation systems are up on the main floor, and we never really need to go down into the farm again, unless we need to restock it with bone meal. So yeah, that is pretty much everything we need technical wise for the moss farm. And let's talk a little bit about the design of the build from the inside at least. Once again, I went with a foundation of the mossy stone blocks and a little bit of moss because, you know, this is the moss farm. I figure I wanted to use a bunch of moss in the build, and that's kind of what happened. The moss is starting to take over the sandstone walls, and yeah, I think it looks really nice, especially from outside. I should probably sleep the night away. From outside, you can see that the front hallway we made to be wood rather than sandstone, and that's because I kind of wanted to give this build a little bit of a mudroom front foyer vibe, and I think that is what we achieved. And once again, going with the ruining of the build by placing the leaves and stuff over it really helps to sell the overgrown look of the area. And actually, I've also already added it to the map, so let's have a look at what that looks like. Yep, that's looking good. Now the only thing that we need to really connect all this stuff is to start looking at the paths of the Sun Warrior Temple Village area. And for the pathways, I'm picturing a very busy block palette. I'm picturing stuff like stripped spruce logs, maybe some terracotta mixed in, mossy cobblestone, birch planks, birch logs, dirt, and rooted dirt. Rooted dirt is something that I find really interesting. And it's very, very similar to the dirt texture, but it adds so much. So I think I'm going to try to spam a little bit of these blocks around here and see what it looks like. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that time lapse. We got all of the paths in place, at least in the main village area, and they're looking fantastic. The cobblestone, terracotta, dirt, just the really busy textures really work in the desert, as long as you still keep a lot of the kind of sand textures mixed in as well. And then I placed leaves all around the path to once again try to make everything feel overgrown. And the next thing that I want to look at in this video is this open space here. The goal is to make a set of stairs to take us up into the mountains over here, where they can then come across to another set of stairs which will bring them up to the top of the mountains through here. Now, I know it's going to be tricky to get a good staircase coming diagonally up to here, but I'm going to give it my best shot, and my plan is to get a bunch of netherrack, kind of get the shape done first, and then replace it with stairs afterwards. So let's go give that a shot right now. And the stairway into the mountain is complete. And I think I managed pretty good for having to do a diagonal staircase. I went through and broke a bunch of the stairs after I placed them, so it does look a little bit more ruined. And we once again added leaves all over. But I think this thing is looking really good. The support structures add a really nice feel to it. It's fun to fly around. And I also went ahead and on a live stream figured out what I want to do for the custom cactuses of the area. And in that live stream, Wow Moose came up with the idea of putting pink candles on top of these cactuses to make them look even more cactusy. And I think that that was a great addition, and I'm gonna add a bunch of these in this area. And I still do have other ideas for things I want to do to this stairway. I want to detail the bottom of it a little bit more. Oh, looks like I missed some of the netherrack as well. Whoops. Yeah, I want to detail the bottom of it a little bit more. I was thinking of adding more wood in here to make it seem like the wood is cupping the bottom of the stairway to help hold it up. But overall, this is looking very good. And now the one thing that I think that will make it look a whole lot better is if we get rid of all this sand and detail up the ground around here. Wow, I spent hours putting in like 90,000 sand blocks in this area, and now I'm just getting rid of it all. But yeah, we're gonna put in a lot of dirt and rooted dirt in this area because I'm imagining this is the stairway up into the mountains. They might walk here a little bit more, and it might be a little bit less of a structured pathway like this. So let's do a little bit of terraforming. I'll see you guys when we get back. And the pathway for the stairway's landing is complete. And we also added these flame statues here right at the base of the stairs. I think it adds a really nice detail. And actually, we've gotten a lot done in today's episode. We got this whole build done, we got the moss farm done, we got the most of the paths done. We'll have to expand them out to all the builds over here eventually. But right now we're focusing on this area for the meantime. And we also got this whole stairway in and this beautiful landing right here. But with that being said, that's all the time that I have for this episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Water Tribe, out.